So now I'm going to be talking about the story of this game. Tails tells Sonic that a bunch of Chow have vanished, and he assumes Eggman is behind it. How does he know about the Chow vanishing? Did he see it on the news? Was there a breaking news broadcast? I guess so. It's confusing because Tails isn't normally about monitoring the amount of Chow that are on every particular area. For all they know, it's just some random normal villains who are just taking the Chow to sell them. Which is not necessarily evil, because they might go to loving owners. Since when is it like Eggman to do something as petty sounding as taking Chow from their natural environment? If they knew about the fact that they could be used for their chaos energy, it would make sense. Or they were speculating that Eggman was going to use the Chow to experiment on them, or use them as batteries. Well, then it makes sense that they would take it seriously. But they're just assuming Eggman's behind it. And he's on this island. How did they know that? Did he see him on the island? Did he see him on the island on the news? Or did he put a tracker on his Eggmobile? So are we going to be told what this island is? Or is it just left lazily nameless? Well, as it turns out, we never do learn the name of this island. Sonic naturally wonders why Eggman would want a bunch of Chow. So then why is he assuming it's Eggman? But decides to follow him anyways because he can't be trusted. You know, when Chow were being taken in Sonic Heroes, people didn't instantly blame Eggman for it. Sonic sees Knuckles and Rouge and teases them about potentially being on a date. Knuckles just says,
"Knock it off, Sonic,"
which is a lot less entertaining than him actually getting embarrassed. Knuckles asks Sonic if he's seen Eggman. You lost the Master Emerald again? What is this, the 6th time? Sonic naturally snarks about it. When he decides to go to Eggman and then talk to him later, Knuckles says angrily,
"Hey, come back here!"
That's right, folks. The problem with the plot of Rivals 1, where characters will compete with each other for no reason, still persists. Why can't Sonic and Knuckles just work together at this point? Aren't they supposed to be on the same side? Whatever happened to the real superpower of teamwork? Apparently Sonic thinks it's worthless now. So once again, Knuckles will take any excuse he can to try to beat up his own friend and potentially send him to the hospital or kill him. At least now he's asking for permission so that Sonic is less likely to think less of him. Sonic doesn't seem to mind at all. This makes sense, and Sonic would have a lot of pent-up anger towards him that he'd like to get out for all the time to try to fight with him. Tails cheerfully greets Rouge and asks what she's doing there. I guess he doesn't hate her and distrust her anymore like in Sonic Battle, even though nothing happened in between those games to change his opinion on her. Rouge explains that she's looking for treasure and asks where Eggman is, or the Doctor as she calls him. When Tails mentions that him and Sonic were looking for him on the island, Rouge decides to tell the Doctor that he's looking for him. Why would Rouge go back to working for Eggman? Tails naturally objects to this because if Eggman knows he's looking for him, he'll never find him. Sonic confronts Eggman. Sonic asks him what he's done with the Chow, and Eggman denies it. Why are you answering like that when it only makes you look suspicious? I feel like it would only be in character for him to answer like that if he was doing something with the Chow. But wouldn't it be even more in character for him to brag about his plan? Because he bragged about his plan and having nothing to gain from doing so in SA1. Knuckles shows up and says that he's got a bone to pick with them too. And Eggman sends his newest creation after them. As for the other teams who could potentially see in Blue Coast, well, Knuckles is looking for the Master Emerald. He asks if Rouge knows who took it instead of accusing her of taking it. Rouge explains that she wants to find the Chaos Emeralds and might benefit from his help. When Rouge tells him she can lead him to the Doctor, he agrees because he doesn't have much of a choice. Anything to make it go faster. Knuckles points out that he sees Sonic and Tails after that. Vector talks to Espio in a call. I didn't know that the word Chow was supposed to be capitalized. It's so inconsistently capitalized too. And why is he assuming that a hero from the future would do such a thing easily? Why would they think someone neutral would be stealing Chow? And for all they know, he's just collecting them as pets. Chow loved being around people. Whatever happened to Vector being a great detective? Well, as it turns out, he's actually right, but still, the sheer fact that he jumps to conclusions so easily when this is a hero he's talking about. Espio says that he'll go undercover and see if he can follow Silver. Why doesn't he keep it simple and say he'll go invisible? So Silver shows up right away and talks to Espio. Wouldn't it be perceived as racist just walk up to a chameleon and go, "Hey chameleon!" Like that's the most important thing about him? Maybe Espio's just not that oversensitive. And it has to be that Silver's barely seen any chameleons before, but still is aware of what they're supposed to look like. When Silver confronts him on knowing where the Chow are, Espio goes from acting serious and dignified as usual to being nervous. It's actually pretty amusing seeing someone like Espio act like that. For once he's being relatable instead of just serious all the time. Not much of a ninja though. You'd think he'd try to be intimidating. Tell him, "Don't you dare kidnap any Chow." Silver calls him strange. That's hypocritical coming from the telekinetic hedgehog. His character portrait doesn't make it look like he's trying to insult Espio, just stating a fact. That might be part of why I interpret Silver's rudeness in this game as being due to him having no social skills. It might be that he never had any friends growing up and was shunned at school for his powers, since he naturally would have shown them off because that's what a little kid would do if he had powers. Espio tells him he's mistaken, not only lacking self-awareness because he actually is pretty strange, but also forgetting that his mission is to follow him. And yet he runs away and Silver has to chase after him. Why would he tell him be gone? Why not just say I have to go to the bathroom or something, then he wouldn't follow you? Shadow reveals that he's working with Metal Sonic. There's no explanation beforehand. He doesn't even explain why he wants to send Metal Sonic after Espio. You have to play Shadow's storyline to find out the answer. In Shadow's storyline, he wonders who's there, even though you don't see or hear anything before he says that. So for all you know, he said that for no reason. What, did he hear rustling in the bushes behind him? It makes sense that Eggman's such a control freak that he wants to make sure he won't say anything he doesn't want him to, and he wants to be the one doing all the talking. And it's annoying to have Metal Sonic have nothing but generic villain dialogue. It's easy to want Metal Sonic to talk, because of the potential that he could be an interesting character, but really the Sonic series isn't going to make him a deep character. It just makes me wonder why he's even here after he betrayed Eggman, and it doesn't explain it. It's sweet that he calls him his metal friend, but it's also completely unlike him. When Shadow questions why he should help Eggman, the Doctor gives him a good answer. And I guess he's only asking Shadow for help out of desperation. Instead of immediately explaining what he means and preventing Shadow from jumping to the conclusion that he's threatening to destroy the world himself, Eggman gets distracted. It's harder for him to remember Silver because he just met him. Why is there no time to explain? If Metal Sonic's running alongside him, then surely Eggman would be able to tell him during that time. Espio would be trying to talk to him if he was within earshot of him. So Silver tells Shadow the truth like would be logical. No, that's not what happened. Instead, the writers want to give us a piss-poor excuse for the rival system. I wish it just explained Silver's thought process here. Have him say that he would never believe him about what he's doing. They're both against Eggman, why aren't they on the same side though? He just tells him not to get in his way. Why does he say that and expect Shadow to leave him alone? So Metal Sonic shows up, and instead of saying anything, you just see a text box from him with programming code in it. That's even lamer than him not talking. This actually caused people to wonder if Eggman had severely cut down on Metal Sonic's intelligence after Sonic Heroes. Why would Eggman hamper the usefulness of his most intelligent robot when that'd only make him less likely to beat Sonic? How is he feeling about having to team up with Shadow? Was he disappointed at the fact that he barely ever competed with Sonic in this game? It's not like Eggman's talking to him through loudspeakers explicitly giving him the order. So why is it phrased like order and not plan or solution or something? You'd think Metal Sonic would be faster than Espio, so there'd be no point in trying to run away from him. Wouldn't Espio think that he has to deal with Metal Sonic because he's such a threat? Wouldn't he panic and want to put him down? Isn't he supposed to be a paranoid ninja? Knuckles and Rouge meet up with Eggman and accuse him of stealing the Master Emerald. Sonic says that he'll defeat Eggman before they do. Again, I have no problem with Sonic acting this way because it's perfectly in character for him, and he's not being an outright arrogant dick. He's just trying to have fun. And Espio freaks out from seeing Silver, despite being known for being serious and cool-headed. It's not like it was a plot point in the previous game that Silver used it on Eggman in front of people and they freaked out. Why would he ever catch him? He's supposed to be invisible. How is Espio not a mere citizen? It only makes sense because he has powers when most of the people on this planet don't. He was only a hero one time. It's not really like him to have one active heroism go to his head. Silver accuses Eggman of being Eggman Nega, and he admits it immediately again. I guess he figures he doesn't need to hide from Espio because he's such a minor character. Still, how does Silver know that's Eggman Nega and not Eggman? We don't know how Silver found out this. Or how the two travel back in time. Silver insists on fighting him instead of Shadow. And we can cheat out their dialogue in the Silver story, despite the fact that it's dialogue that is happening as an integral part of the cutscene in both stories. Of course Espio failed, he ran away from him. Silver says he doesn't need Espio anyways. I love that line. He's right though, he doesn't need his help. I like how nicely he talks to Chow. So naturally Espio says he doesn't seem like a bad guy. But he still thinks he has a connection to the Chow incident. Tails points out to Sonic that Eggman dropped something. I sure would have liked to see what the thing Eggman dropped looked like. And I guess Sonic heard Silver talking to himself, for no reason. I don't understand why they made Silver such a jerk to Sonic in the Rivals games. Why does he tell him to move aside? Why can't he just use his telekinetic powers to move him aside? Or at least fly over Sonic? Now I have to assume that the reason he never moved people aside with psychokinesis is that he thought he was too polite to do that to them. That he was raised to think that it was wrong, and he should only do it as a last resort. Either he's been treated like a freak before for having psychokinesis, and so he wants to avoid that, or he was lauded for having them, but he felt like doing that would turn the tables on him. I like that Sonic stays in a good mood. At least Sonic competing with them makes sense. It's surprisingly nice of Shadow to ask Metal Sonic if he's okay. But it's also completely out of character though. Why would he genuinely care about Metal Sonic? It's pragmatic because he'd be a powerful ally, but he shouldn't actually care about him. It's also weird of him to smile while saying I'll take that as a yes. This is probably the first time Metal Sonic's ever been asked if he's okay. And he doesn't get to say anything in response. It's pragmatic of Shadow to keep him around just in case he needs his help. I mean, after all, Metal Sonic can fly and he can't. But Shadow's so fast, he could still achieve the effect of, from an outsider's perspective, being in two places at once. Eggman explains why I wasn't talking to him earlier. There's interference. Good, so they actually have an explanation for why I didn't explain everything right away. But why did the interference start suddenly happening? It's not like he moved. If you don't have time for games right now, then why the hell do you make Silver race you in the first place? So he's admitting that he did something stupid. And he just couldn't help himself. Sonic's talking like it was Silver's idea to have the game when it wasn't his idea. I hate it when Sonic lacks self-awareness. Resolve what? Silver mentions that this might work to his advantage to get more Chow. Good, he's learned from the previous fight with Sonic. He challenges them to see who can collect the most Chow. Sonic likes competition no matter how silly it is, so he agrees. Tails mentions that he has a feeling someone's following him. Espio comments that he's pretty observant, ignoring the fact that he's been following Tails for quite a while and only just now has Tails noticed it. Espio decides to just politely ask Tails for some information. The only reason he would figure out Espio was following him was if he made a noise, and he would have gone into the habit of being as quiet as possible when following him. It's not like he would have stepped on a stick, because he would have seen the stick and avoided it. I guess he jumped over a bush to avoid rustling the bush, but landing on the ground made noise too. because if you heard him, you'd think he'd have heard him earlier. Tails is surprised to see him and explains why him and Sonic are on the island.